Afternoon and welcome to Single Summit Inheriting God Life. Single Summit IG Life for short. My name is Mousy James and I have here with me my beautiful sister Munilola.
Hi everyone.
I called you with the right intonation, Munilola.
You got that right.
How are you, Muni? How was
Very
your week?
well. Very well.
You look beautiful.
You're not looking bad as well.
As always, you know, IG Live girls, we bring it to you. So,
you.
last week, no, 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
pardon me, we had our first episode on Let's Talk About Cohabiting.
Yes.
And I was so blessed by that conversation. We had Kuti and Sister
Queen,
Queen, yes. And for me, what's you're going to tell me what stuck with you?
Well, that's our latest episode online, and it was light, fun banter session, you know, and it was really, really interesting.
Yes, it was.
Because of our guests. Then also we explored a number of questions, you know, that opened up different perspective, you know, and I feel that. You know, a lot of people were blessed.
Yes.
You know, I saw how people were talking about it even around me, like cohabiting. How did you guys come up with it? You know, it was really interesting. I think that it is actually worth watching over and over again. Yeah.
So for me, what stuck with me was how we saw what cohabiting did to Samson.
Yes,
I
yes.
never saw it that way
Yeah.
before. It was just interesting. It was interesting how that was pointed out. It was well painted. If you have not seen that episode, you need to go back to
Definitely.
YouTube, watch it on our YouTube channel. Look for episode 1 of Let's Talk About Cohabiting.
Yeah.
And before we introduce our guests, you know, one thing I remember this morning while I was just prepping and all of that, I remember that growing up, while I was in primary school, we used to live in a face me, I face you, you know. This thing about cohabiting was common, that even children feel like it's a norm. Because I remember I had neighbors, about 2 neighbors, bachelors and believers, Christians, they had their girlfriends living with them. And you see them go in and out, come in and out. It felt like a normal thing. Well, in my own hood, let me use that, it felt like a normal thing. And I realized that this thing has been with us for years.
Long.
And I'm so excited that we are talking about it.
Yes,
it's a
that's
conversation
right.
that needs to be had. And a lot of people are already being blessed. And I'm excited to tell you that today we're tying it all up because we have our guest, Pastor Pax, joining us all the way from London. Wait, first of all, a lot of people were expecting to see Pastor Pax
In the house.
here in the house. I'm sorry. But we have Pastor Pax joining us all the way from London. So I'm just going to say a few things about Pastor Pax. Pastor Pax is a gifted teacher of the word. Pastor Pax has this ability to break down complex truth of God's word in a way that young people can relate with, in a very clear and cinematic way. You know, and Pastor Pax is actually a children's teacher. He's married and he has 3 lovely children. Wow. Pastor Pax is also known for something. There's something Pastor Pax says a lot. And he normally say, no matter how bad your nature is, Jesus is a competent savior. He would save. He can save you irrespective of the level of your darkness or your infirmity. I'm happy that we have Pastor Pax joining us. Hello, Pastor Pax. Welcome to Single Summit IG Live. We're excited to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Pastor.
Thank you so much, Maury and Moni. Lovely to see you too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, it's
how are you feeling? You can greet our online audience because they can see you, and I'm sure they are screaming on online right now.
Okay, hello everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be part of Single Summit IG Live. I wish I was in the studio with you guys, but I think this will have to do for now. And hopefully I'll be able to, in the future, spend some time with you guys in the studio.
We look forward to that. Thank you so much, Pastor. So we will dive right into our conversation for today. We have a few questions lined up, and trust me, guys, they're interesting. So stay with us. Okay.
So, Pastor Pax, thank you once again for joining us. So the first question is to, you know, explain to us what cohabiting is in a way that the young ones can understand. So when they see it, they just know that, okay, this is cohabiting and this is wrong. You know, a simple way to define cohabiting.
Okay, cohabiting is just 2 people living together who are not yet married or in any civil relationship of any kind. So it's as long as there is no marriage, no covenant of any kind, then they are just cohabiting. They're not legally married. So that is what cohabiting is. In various parts of the world, especially this side of the world, it's common for boyfriends and girlfriends to spend time either permanently or temporarily in one person's place. We stay with the girlfriend, goes to the boyfriend's for weeks or months, and then vice versa. That is what cohabiting is. As long as there's no marriage, two people living together, we will refer to it as cohabiting.
Okay, thank you, Pastor, for that. So, in the light of scriptures, are there benefits of cohabiting? And if there are none, what are the disadvantages, sir?
Okay, the truth is, I have tried to logically look at this because I am a scientist. Apart from being a pastor, I'm also a scientist. And logically, when you look at cohabiting, you get people say things like you need to test drive a car before you actually buy the car. Now that sounds logical, but it's quite shallow because the facts actually show that evidence that most people who cohabit, they're more likely to divorce than they actually or even not end up in marriage, despite the fact that that may have been their intention when they started. So when I try to look for an argument for it, I don't see any in the scriptures. Now, when you then look at the disadvantages for it, there's quite a lot of it. Evidence, like I said, will show that a lot of cohabiting couples do not end up in marriage. A lot of distrust and lack of purpose to the relationship is already present from the very beginning. So, and that level of anxiety and distrust that comes from this temporal arrangement, because that is what it is, it's just a temporal arrangement, comes with a lot of anxiety. Both of them know that the other partner can leave them immediately somebody comes with a more formal proposal for marriage. So that sense of living together in that anxious relationship does not work. And we, in the West where we live, we've always had, it's very common to see people here living 10, 20 years and they do not get married. And I remember I used to have colleagues when I first came at work, and they tell me they're living with their girlfriends. Some of them will even have kids. And I'd say, why are you not married? And they'd say things like, if it's not broke, why fix it? And I'm like, but it's already broken, because you're in a situation where both partners do not really feel grounded because of the blessing that comes with that institution called marriage. I think people forget that marriage existed before the church, and it's such an ancient institution, and there is a hallowing and a blessing that comes with it from heaven. So we notice, for example, that this side of the world, it doesn't matter what religion people are, whether they are Muslims, Buddhists, whatever. If they are legally married and have received the blessing of the parents and community and have some form of legal association of marriage, there's an honor or respect that comes upon that couple and that relationship, that comes upon the husband and the wife because they are legally married. That honor and that hallowing is from God. It's not necessarily one's religion that gives that. It's something that is bestowed on the two of them for taking that step of faith into the unknown, because the future is unknown, right? So you're taking a step of faith to get married and say, I'm going to I'm committing myself to you in front of everybody that we will take the journey together. That hallowing is something that God gave to marriage that does not exist in the context of cohabiting.
Wow.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. That was wholesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I guess what people are trying to avoid is what they will eventually fall into when they cohabit. That's what I'm hearing. Because people argue that they need to cohabit because they want to ensure that they will last with this person in marriage. And from what Pastor is
Compatibility.
telling us, you taking that step means that you are denying yourself of a blessing that should come upon you and your marriage for the long haul. So thank you, Pastor, for that. In let's define it further. I want to paint a scenario and I want to know if this is also called cohabiting, because I want us to present all sides in this conversation. We have an engaged couple and say a fiancé and a fiancé, and the brother decides to spend, they're not married, engaged to be married, and the brother decides to spend the weekend at the family house of his wife-to-be. Is that cohabiting, considering that there are people around them and they will not be alone? Is that also cohabiting?
In the context of an engaged couple, you can spend time with family members as you prepare for marriage. But the rule must be that you have to be wise enough to ensure that you're not sleeping in the same room or spending so much time alone together, things like that. If you cannot guarantee that that is the case, then that would be an unwise case. Now, I know that logically people will say things like, oh, but we're definitely engaged, so I'm sure we can now start living together, maybe even have sexual relationships after we've made the commitment. But it's almost like trying to get the enjoyment of Christmas before Christmas actually comes, if that makes sense. So the thrill, the excitement that you're supposed to be looking forward to when you arrive at that place of Christmas and the presents being opened and all of that, you're denying yourself of that. Also, especially for the man, the woman who is supposed to be feeling, is this the kind of man I can trust and commit my future to, needs to know that you are a man of character and that you are a man of substance. If you cannot keep yourself under control until marriage, your wife already goes into that that marriage without the necessary trust, absolute trust that this man is as good as his word. So you go into a relationship, and before you know what's happening, from the very beginning, the woman does not really trust the man to lead the home, and she's questioning his decision. She's already checking out. Am I really sure that this is the man? Just because the man did not show the integrity and the strength of character to wait until the wedding.
Wow. Moni, what do you think about this?
That's a whole lot, you know.
Yes.
Understanding that as partners, we have responsibility as Christians. You know, it builds our perspective. And then for every decision to be made is very important. Look at it. Pastor says that, you know, a woman who is looking at her husband, intended husband, you know, okay, this is what he can do just by the things you're able to control yourself over. That's a huge one, you know. Yeah, so it's very insightful.
And another thing I saw is that both parties need to be sincere. I think as believers, we just need to be sincere. Because the truth is, for me, from what Pastor is saying, if I know that I don't have the kind of control that I need for me to be under the same roof with my spouse-to-be, I shouldn't even allow that in the first place. I should be sincere enough to know that, okay, let's not do this. You can visit and go back. Nobody says you have to spend the weekend, right? That's me. I don't know what you think, but that's what I think. It boils down to sincerity. You need to be sincere with yourself as a believer, because you can say people are around. And I'm also thinking, how about situations where everybody goes to bed and one person goes into the other person's room and they hang out, and before you know it, just innocent hanging out has turned into something else, right? So it all boils down to sincerity. Thank you so much, Pastor, for shedding light on that. So I want us to move a bit further. We're talking about reasons why people why people cohabit. While researching, I read a lot of things online, and I came across a forum where people were very vocal about this. Many people gave their voices, believers, to this idea of cohabiting. Now, one of the two major reasons that stood out why people say that they cohabit: number one, to test compatibility, and number two, finances. In talking about testing compatibility, I've heard of stories of people that divorced.
Yes.
And Pastor, sincerely, I'm concerned. I'm asking sincerely because I know someone out there has this question. And I know because I saw a lot of people asking around this. Someone got divorced and the person got the opportunity to marry again. Now, do you think that cohabiting would have helped that person to know whether they are sexually compatible with their partner in the first place? Would cohabiting have solved the problem from the get-go? If they had cohabited, do you think that divorce would have happened? So what do you think?
Okay. I will answer the issue of compatibility. Now, evidence, this is just facts, have shown that the more sexual partners you have before marriage, the more likely you're going to get divorced. And the simple reason is you can train your body to believe that sex comes with a new experience and a new person every time. So that by the time you then get into a relationship and you're with the same person that you're supposed to build a sexual relationship with, your body has been conditioned to expect a different experience, a different person, a different context all the time, and it becomes difficult to adjust, except by God's mercy that couple will then stay together. Now, I know that there are horror stories of people talking about things like, we didn't know he was homosexual, or he was incompetent, impotent, and or things like that. But that is where, in our own case, we can trust God for the kind of counseling that leads to marriage, to raise questions, to look at real issues of compatibility. Because a lot of people refer only to the sexual side of things. Now, one thing that we must realize is that when it comes to being able to compare sexual compatibility, we can always address that with proper counseling. Because when you have, and a lot of churches are on board with that now, they ask all sorts of questions, including things like what you deem to be a healthy sexual lifestyle. All of those kinds of intimate questions that come from proper counseling will aim to address that issue of compatibility. So I don't believe that the more sexual partners you have, or if we try things first, we will know whether it would work and things like that. No, this is where we need to trust God, trust pastoral covering, and then look at proper counseling that will be able to address issues that may come up with regards to sexual compatibility. Now, when it comes to finances, that is a very poor reason to go into a commitment that goes beyond or that will last forever. I think Christians should now learn, if we are receiving sound doctrine and sound teaching and things like that, what contentment can look like, and how we can, with faith, trust God for resources, and at the same time trust God to be able to live a lifestyle within the means that we have possible. And we have testimonies of God honoring couples that waited till they were ready to go into relationship and were willing to start small. The problem we have now is a lot of people would want to go into marriage with Instagram-worthy marriages, and they will refuse to go to a marriage with a budget of less than a million or a couple of million, unless we have a hall that is worth this. And all of those problems that have to deal with lack of contentment also affect the relationship. So I believe that those two reasons are not good enough. They just do not hold the strength to do things God's way. And when we look at it from evidence, now, statistics show that those who cohabit are more likely to divorce before they get into a relationship. Like I said, in this side of the world, we've had many examples of people who will be cohabiting for 10 years, decades, and then they get married and they divorce within a year or two after having divorced. Also, we also get instances of people cohabiting for so long. The woman gets fed up, says she's no longer doing, leaves, and then you find the guy gets married within a year or two. So it shows that, unfortunately, women are the ones who bear a higher risk of cohabiting. They bear a higher risk of cohabiting. They could have kids, and there's a lot more emotional attachment to the relationship because women like to stake their future on, can I trust this man to lead well? So if the conditions are not good enough, as it were, you then come into this kind of issue where you then try cohabiting and then you get burned when you go into cohabiting. So I will always insist that you need faith, you need to trust God, you need to also trust your pastors. If you feel that you have to cohabit with somebody before you marry them, then you should not marry them. It means your faith level is not strong enough. You do not really trust that God has led you to that person and that you can stake your future with that person. If you feel you have to cohabit someone before you move, take the next step, they are not the right person for you.
Thank you, Pastor Parks. That was very good. That will bring us to the next question that I have. You saying that there is no excuse for you to cohabit. Fine. How about a genuine reason or excuse, like a friend or a partner gets stuck in the same state I am in, and probably there's no money to rent, maybe to get an hotel or something, and then I said, okay, come stay with me till you are able to sort yourself. Can we consider that to be cohabiting? Or if we say that is cohabiting, I mean, for a few days before the person sorts themselves out, what can we do in that situation? What other alternatives can we use? I mean, this person does not have anything, he's not financially buoyant to get maybe a place to stay for the days that he wants to do something. What should we consider that first? And what can we do if you cannot do that?
Okay. I have very, very practical examples of this kind of thing happening. I had friends when I was in Warri, back in the day, much older friends when I was in school, who had a girlfriend or fiancé come round, and they wanted to, as part of getting to know each other. And the guy, being a Christian, asked her she came, they stayed and with friends and everything. And when it was nighttime, he left the house to go and sleep over with someone else and allowed the lady take the house until it was time for her ticket, when she was due for her to go back to her city. So you have to flee all appearances of evil. Do not put yourself in a situation where temptation will arise. And also, I even have a very practical example with my own self, where I was living in a community of a house of, if you can imagine, what you would call like a house of brethren, as it were. We had 4 rooms, ladies were in one room, guys were in one room. The moment my wife, who was my girl, just a friend, we became official as a relationship, my wife moved out to a 1-bedroom apartment in a, she went into a shared accommodation. So she left the luxury of having all these brethren that, brethren life, to go and live with strangers, just because we did not want any form of temptation until marriage. Do you understand? So you have to be committed and trust God to help you overcome what you refer to as a genuine excuse for there is, to be honest, there is no real genuine excuse for cohabiting. If you are a man of honor, you will sacrifice your place, as it were, and go and sleep in church, anywhere with brethren, while your fiancé is comfortable in the right place where you need to go. And if it means taking out savings, find somewhere for one of you to be able to stay, and trust God to help you. And then look at whether you're delaying marriage because you are trying to raise millions before you get married. All of those kinds of things you have to do. Look carefully with integrity and honesty when you approach pastors and seek advice with regards to your relationship. I believe that God will help you if you are really sincere to avoid temptation and anything that will cause you to doubt the integrity and the leading of God in your relationship.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pastor, for that answer. Thank you so much. In light of sincerity, I want to bring another scenario in this. The reason why we are bringing out all of these sides and examples is we don't want people to say, oh, okay, it's permitted for this, but when this other situation happens, it's not permitted, or it's not permitted here, but it's permitted. We want to touch on all sides. Yeah. So there's a sister who got pregnant out of wedlock, and her parents are insisting, her family members are insisting. She's a believer. Yes, she made a mistake. She's made it right with God and everything. But her family and her parents are insisting that she needs to go back to that man's house and stay with him. What should a believer? She's made things right. She wants to. She's made things right with God. That's just how I can put it. She's now sincere. She knows that she made a mistake. But her family members are insisting, go back to that man's house and go and live with him. What does a believer in this situation, what do you advise someone like this to do?
Okay. These are very, very practical questions. So thank you, whoever asks a question like this. Now, in the context of things, there are 2 things here. If normally any well-meaning church will not marry any couples together without having got consent from the parents. In this particular scenario, it appears that the parents have already given their consent, and the sister has made right with God and has said that I have made a mistake, and where sin abounds, grace much more abounds. So we understand that is a mistake that can happen, and that person must not be condemned because they've now made a mistake. Now, if they want to now take the relationship forward, get married immediately. The child is you're already pregnant. There is no need to cohabit. You can either go to court, get pastors, get blessings, and do some form of celebration much later if you like. But I would still insist that if the parents have approved and the sister, with the support of the pastors and the church, believe that yes, this relationship is one that they would like to go forward with, then they should look to getting something done immediately. Go to the courts, go to the pastors, have people pray with you and bless the relationship, and if possible, get some form of counseling that will help you with the crash landing, as it were, because now you're no longer having the soft landing of the type of counseling sessions that couples get before they get married. So that is something that you can look into. But if it's a situation where you don't want that relationship to continue, and your parents are now putting you under pressure to move out because you're already pregnant. What are you doing here? Move. Then in that kind of case, I would believe that that person would do well to seek counseling from pastors and the support of the church for the next step forward. I really believe that for every single case, heaven can always make a way and provide support for you. So I don't think you should be in a I don't think you should look at yourself as condemned and a situation that the church cannot help. So I will just go and cohabit, and I will just stay with him, and hopefully he will decide to marry me one day.
So, because I was going to ask a follow-up question, say, what if the guy is not interested in marrying this lady? But I think you answered it towards the end to say that should not be once the guy is not showing interest, she should not. She shouldn't feel condemned, and she should fight that step. Pastor, am I correct?
You don't want to even think of moving into the guy's house when he himself is not interested. That can lead to serious cycles of abuse. You don't want to be in that kind of scenario. At that kind of stage, you should lean heavily on the church, and the church will help if you are sincere enough looking for direction and for the next step. Don't think that, oh, if I go to church, my church will not, no one in church will marry me because I'm a single mother. That's a lie from the devil. We have people who are in our midst who were single parents when they got married, and today they are living happy lives with their husbands. And we even had cohabiters who came to meetings, had, single summits. We have beautiful testimonies. Heard testimonies. Mommy Helen was ministering, or one of the pastors was ministering, and they just said, that's it. I'm moving out of my boyfriend's house. And they went back home, and family was looking like, what's wrong? Did you fight your... Because we have to understand that, right, we may say as the church, and looking at all the evidence, like I'm saying, and saying, listen, cohabiting is not right for you, but not all people see it this way. Some parents are actually happy, unfortunately, for their kids to move into their, together, and see that as a form of a valid relationship. That is not right. You must stand your grounds with the support of the church to let your parents know that you are not leaning in that direction at all. That you would rather that marriage took place with the blessing of the church before that happens. So if the guy is saying no, then it's a definite no for you to even try and move in there. You must not subject yourself to abuse. And you must trust God that your future will still be settled, and God will have the right person come who will take both you and your children into their own bosoms.
Wow. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. For the person who had asked that question, I'm sure it's clear. Yeah, don't tie yourself to continuous abuse, when the person is not involved, is not interested. That's very good. Thank you. Well, and this also leads us to a question. For someone who, before I say this, people have been born into a kind of family that has a kind of belief, right? And some things that are not good or that are not biblical have become a normal thing to them. Now, for someone who is staying with an elderly sibling, or maybe aunties, one of the relatives, maybe elder relatives, and they are cohabiting, how do such a person tell the elderly sibling or auntie or relative that this is not good? And how do this kind of person guard their heart to not take cohabiting as a norm thing? Because, we are influenced by the things that we see most every time. True. So yes, how does such a person guard their heart? And how do I tell, the person, the elder one, maybe I'm even staying with the person, how do I tell them that this is not right?
That's a very good one. Now, when it comes to issues of lifestyle, and trying to teach others about how we do things based on our faith. We do not have the right, as it were, to enforce our beliefs on others, other than with prayer and with trusting the Lord to guide us in the way that we raise issues or matters to people. In such scenario, if I were someone and I was living with a sibling who was cohabiting, I will be trying almost immediately to look for a way out. I'll be praying to God to create another place for me to stay, especially if it was a situation where there was cohabiting and I felt I'm feeling unduly influenced by the environment. One thing that we must know, however, is that you can be of this in this world and not be of this world. You can have your source like an alien, from another world while you are still in the current environment that you're in. So as long as you are locked into doctrine, locked into what we are hearing here, you can preserve your life if it be that you are not really able to come out of that situation as quickly as you think you are, while you trust God to make an opening, maybe make school open, maybe a job open, or a situation means you leave that particular environment and then you have to go and spend time with pastors or brothers or sisters from the church in another capacity. That is something that I will be looking to. I will not ask you to go and challenge elders. Even the Bible will tell us that we do not rebuke elders. We entreat them. So the moment you entreat an elder and the elder says to you, Omodelo share, I feel pity for you, you are still thinking that this is how the world is. Say, okay, your innocence, God will reward you. But you see, there's nothing wrong with cohabiting. But I hear you, Sha. When you hear that kind of feedback, you can't do more than pray for them and begin to ask God to give you a way out, so that you are not, as it were, unduly influenced by what you're getting. But at that stage, you need to be trusting God that God will help you find another way out.
Very true. Thank you so much, Pastor. I'm sure that we've all gleaned wisdom. We've gleaned a lot of wisdom. We've presented a lot of sides. I will ask the last question for today, and this is about those of us that follow Christian influencers, in quotes, who cohabit and they show it off on social media. They show it off. Now, the question here is, should we be listening to people like that? They are influencers, they are Christian influencers. Truly, truly, Pastor, these guys say things that you can put on your status, things that encourages you to serve the Lord, motivates you, inspires you, and all of that. But they cohabit and they show it off. Now, should we be listening as believers? Is it healthy to listen to people like that? Is it healthy to follow them or listen to what they are saying?
Thank you very much. That's a very good one. We are in an influencer age, and this influencer age means that there is a lot of falsehood out there. And the image that you see on social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever, YouTube Shorts, whatever, is not real life. We need to understand that that is a put on for likes, these things are monetized because people feel that that is what will bring income and everything to them. And in such scenarios, I will desist from just swallowing all that you receive from anyone, hook, line, and sinker, and saying, well, they are Christians, so it means that anything they are doing must be godly and must be approved of God. Unfortunately, that is not the case. That is not the case. One thing you must realize as Gentiles, the very first time that the Gentiles began to have church communities in the Bible, in the book of Acts, the Israelites began to argue that these Gentile Christians, if they were going to be truly Christians, this was before God raised Paul and all the epistles that he wrote to the stature that he did. And they were arguing that these Gentiles must also do the Jewish rites, the feasts, the ablutions and in prayer and all of that kind of stuff. And after they were called to over and they sought God concerning the kind of help that was needed for the Gentile church, the Bible says something really striking. It says they came down to two main things that they felt the Gentiles should do. They were like, we will not impose all of our rights on you, but stay away from idols and stay away from sexual immorality. You see, this thing called sexual immorality is a Gentilic heritage. It wasn't a Jewish thing. God had purified the Jews to a large extent. So I'm not surprised that Gentiles will struggle to flee all forms of sexual bondage or be tied down in some form of way that will not allow them to see marriage as the only avenue for which you can have a healthy sexual lifestyle. That must be something that we must understand, that is something that is the heritage of the Gentile. The Gentile person is prone to having sexual immorality as part of their life. So the early church would say, flee idols and flee sexual immorality. So if the church is struggling and you see people that are Christians, and we have them here in England a lot. Pastors are not, don't even query members because they're afraid of if we say too much, they may leave and things like that. True, you're not supposed to chase anyone. Everyone is supposed to come to church no matter what they are doing. However, they are not real disciples unless they are committed to doing things the way Christ does it. So until they decide to do things exactly as Christ dictates and leads and by sound doctrine, they may be coming to church, they may be Christians, but they are not disciples. And if they are not being disciples, if they are not disciples of Christ, then you have no reason to follow them. Paul will say, follow me as I follow Christ. So you're probably following them wrong. If that is you don't look at influencers and say, well, it works for them, so I will do the same. It doesn't work for them at all. We have cases of people in this world, celebrities, influencers, and all of a sudden we hear that they are getting divorced, or that one of them has committed suicide, and we think, oh my God, but they blessed us with, such a large body of work. They've been blessing me for many years. I've been following them for so long. Oh, I'm going to miss this person. He was such a brilliant actor. He even won Oscars. Why did he kill himself? The falsehood of influencer culture is a pain. And unfortunately, it also affects the church. We even have very similar divorce rates with the world in the church. It's quite shocking, which shows that the church has let a lot of things in that it should not have let in. So if we want to be very contrite and have the right level of integrity, then we should be trusting God to not just do things because everyone is doing it, but do it because the Lord is dictating that it be so. It has to be so. And like I said, evidence with statistics will show that those who would wait before they get married to come into having sexual relationship of any kind are more likely to hold their marriage. Don't also go into cohabiting and say, if you are going out with somebody right now and the person is telling you we don't need a paper to show our commitment, run from that person. that person does not know the integrity of the relationship, because you must understand that life throws a lot of hardship at you. So a lot of people today who are still married and are still together are only together because that covenant of marriage was what kept them through trials. If you are only cohabiting and you don't have the commitment of heaven and your family network to keep you together, you will not be able to withstand the trials that come. You will not be able to. And we need to understand that, so that we are then able to encourage ourselves to remain with Christ and be accountable to people, to brethren. Don't just speak to people who will just say, yeah, everything you do is good. Reach out to pastors. That pastor that you think is scary, and I want to go to nice pastor, go to that one that is scary. Go to that one. Pray for help to go to that so-called scary pastor, and go to him and say, Pastor, I need you to help me with counsel. And you will see that God will honor the sincerity of your heart and give guidance when it is true. So I don't want us to be unclear about how cohabiting has no advantage for you. Logically or spiritually, it's just a dead end that will only bring more hurt, more pain than is necessary. So let's trust God for wisdom. And what we are hearing now, like I like the fact that you talked about the first episode of Cohabiting. Viewers, let's go watch it. Let's hear testimonies from those who gave testimonies there, and let's see the problems that come with that. And even when you do your research online, you will see that there's a lot more help and resources for those who want to also be committed to marriage before they take the next step. And God will bless you and guide you in so doing.
Amen. Thank you so much. Pastor has said it all. Pastor has said it all. There is nothing left on this table. This table is officially broken and closed. Thank you so much, Pastor. I feel like now, believers, we need to normalize running from things that do not support what God wants for us. We need to normalize it. We need to learn, block, delete, run away. Anything that helps you to stay away from things that do not edify. We also have to bear in mind that public opinion is not Bible's opinion. Correct. Is not. We've heard it and we've seen it. We've painted different scenarios. And out of all the scenarios we painted, nothing says cohabiting is good. Or nothing says cohabiting is good for a believer. It's something a believer should do. I mean, nothing. Did you hear that?
It's clearly stated.
It's clearly stated that this is something a believer should not be found doing. So it doesn't matter what situation you are in. It's just an excuse. There's a way out. There's a way. I heard pastors saying, talk to the Lord. When you find yourself in certain situations, pray that the Lord will bring you out of it so that you don't stay there. And the Lord that is so passionate about you, and the Lord that wants you to succeed in your following him and inheriting him, will create a way of escape out of whatever situation. So let's normalize running from and also the public opinion. There's just a lot. Sometimes you don't even want to believe these things, but you keep consuming content that says these things are good, and somewhere you find that you are lenient towards the idea. Thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you. And we've come to the end of the show. We've been blessed, and thank you so much again. Thank you, Pastor Parks. Once again, thank you. We can't say thank you enough. And like you said, we are looking forward to you coming to Nigeria, and we'll be having you in the studio in flesh and blood. So thank you so much. All right, guys, see you in the next episode. Wait a minute. This is the last episode. Oh my God. This is the last episode of Single Summit. Inheriting God Life 2025. But we have a special edition in December.
Yes, you don't want to miss it.
On 26th of December, on Boxing Day, we have a special edition. Watch out for that one. But officially, we've ended Single Summit IG Live for the year. Oh my God.
It's a beautiful journey.
Yes,
so
thank
far.
you guys for sticking with us on this ride. We'll see you in the special edition in December. Bye.